Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Handyman Graham, and today's video is the long-awaited Q&A. I have to say this every single time, but don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you aren't already subscribed. Also hit the like button. I found out that it just helps with visibility on the YouTube algorithm thing. So the more likes we get, the more subscribers we get, the more the video is able to like go out into the universe and like do its thing. And if you're already subscribed, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. For today's video, I'm going to be answering a whole bunch of questions that you guys have asked me on my YouTube, on my Instagram, you've DM'd me. I'm so thrilled that people want to know more about me, about my tools, about how to do things, about how to be a better painter. Hopefully I can give you guys some tips, some tricks. Also, if you're not following me on Instagram, be sure to follow me over on Instagram. I post more like kind of like BTS pictures and some stories from like makeovers that Alexandra and I do, projects that I've done, sidewalk finds. Okay, so this video is gonna be split up into 3 sections. The first section is gonna be just general questions about myself, like who I am, my history, maybe education, favorite color, I don't know. The second section is gonna be just beginner DIY tips and tricks. And the third section is gonna be just general questions about past projects, maybe future projects. And then there's just gonna be like a general rapid fire questions section that's just random questions. Okay, so let's get into the first section, and this is the Graham lore. Okay, so the first question comes from Sparrowberry3420, who asked me, history, I'd love to know your journey from when you started woodworking to how you found Team AG. So pretty much like, I became like very handy starting at a young age. My family has a cabin on an island in the middle of nowhere. It sounds crazy because it actually is, but we built our cottage from scratch. There was no electricity until like 5 years ago when we put some solar panels in. From a young age, I was always just constantly working on the cottage. I would have friends up every summer. We'd paint, we'd roof, build walkways. It's just like, we're always just like kind of doing things like that. Always just tinkering. And then kind of just like, you know, go through school, trying to figure things out a little bit. I used to do barista competitions, and so I'd make like little wood display boards and stuff like that. When COVID hit, everything shut down, and I was working as a grip and film. I became a TaskRabbit, and so just working as a grip and working for TaskRabbit was like 2 really great ways that I could like work on my skills. As I'm working, I'm also improving. I'm building up my toolkit, learning new skills from the grips and the set decorators and, you know, like all this sort of stuff. On the last day of one of these productions I was working on, I got an email from Amanda, who's Alexandra's manager, and she asked me if I was available for a project the following week, and that's how I got started with Alexandra. It was literally, I think they got my contact info from a Facebook group. Amanda's friend lived in a condo where I fixed a dishwasher. Amanda was looking for someone, and her friend recommended me, whose name she found in the Facebook chat. That's how I started working for Alexandra. It's kind of like my woodworking journey is just like a combination of all these little experiences that I've picked up along the way. Okay, wow, that's very long-winded of a way of just saying, I just frickin' wing it, right? I have no formal education in woodworking whatsoever. I just wing it, I go on YouTube, I look up how to do things, Google. Here, this is a perfect segue into the next question. This is a question from MPA Jemmy. Do you have any formal education, college or trade school? So I did first bit of education was, well, obviously I finished high school, and then I did a high school equivalent. It's called the University Transferable Courses program at Langara College. So I did like a semester there in order to like boost my grades from high school, because I did not want to be in high school. I did not care about anything except for like music and drawing, and for some reason I was put into a sports school. I just did not thrive in high school, but went to Langara for a semester and then got my grades up a little bit, and then I went to York University here in Toronto for 4 years. I booked an appointment with the guidance counselor, and she's like, what do you like to do? I'm like, I like to watch movies and read books. And then she said, okay, great, English Lit, you're in. And then I just kind of thrived with English Lit. I was just like in a program that was like perfect for me because it was just like full of creativity. Long-winded way of me also saying, no, I don't have any formal education in like trades programs or anything like that, but I would never rule it out. I'm always open to like taking courses and stuff in the future. There was a high school in my neighborhood that was like kind of focused on trades, and my parents were like, you'll go into sports. Okay, this one is from Tamar Litvot. Sorry, if I'm pronouncing your names wrong. I would like to know when and why you got into woodworking. Also, I think Alexandra once mentioned she knew you in high school. I would love to know more about that and how you met up again and became part of the team. Okay, so similar question, when and why I got into woodworking. I don't know, I've just always been tinkering as like a kid, taking things apart, putting things back together. Like I would take apart like a padlock just to see how like the locking mechanism happened, and then I'd just break the lock, and then my parents would be like, what, okay? Or like, I remember taking apart an alarm clock one time, I don't know why, but woodworking specifically, it's just like, I don't know, it's just like a raw material that you just kind of shape into like whatever. Working for Alexandra, you know, she's allowed me to really just run with it. It's allowed me to like learn while working, and then just kind of like improving with each project that I do and each makeover that we do together. It's a lot of fun, and it's just like the perfect fit for me. The second part of that question is, Alexandra once mentioned that we knew each other in high school. Okay, that's actually false. We didn't know each other in high school. Our grandparents did live in the exact same apartment building, and there's like a little pool, and so we figured out that we grew up swimming in the exact same swimming pool, and like that's where I learned how to swim. That's where she learned how to swim. I remember as a kid there being other kids in the pool, and is probably her and her family, so it's pretty wild that our paths have crossed at probably more than one point in our past.
I feel like it was like the universe did bring you to us. I really do.
I don't want to like entertain Alexandra in her like fate and destiny thing, but yes, it definitely was fate that the circumstances were in place that allowed us to like meet each other. When I'm doing projects, I always have like her voice in my head. I'm always thinking like, what would she do for her design and stuff? So we're coming up on like 4 years now of working together, which is crazy because it's also like the longest period of time I've ever held a job for, like by like a factor of 2. So, I mean, that's saying something right there in itself. It's working out, and it's worked out. Okay, so Cham9984 asks, what other hobbies are you passionate about, and was the last marathon your first, and how did the run go? Okay, thanks for asking about running. Yeah, no, running is probably my second biggest passion, I'd say. I did not run in high school, like I said. I was not into sports. When you're younger, you take certain things for granted. So when I was starting to get older, I was like, okay, I need to start taking care of myself. And I started running just like small runs with my dog. And then it kind of just like worked up to longer runs. And then I think my first half marathon was in 2016, and it was 2 laps of Central Park, which was like the most, I think that's what like really did it for me. It was like just very like magical. There was like snow on the ground and stuff. It was really, really pretty. And that's what kind of like really, I was like, okay, this is what I like to do. I'm going for it. First marathon I did was the Montreal Marathon 2 Septembers ago. That one was really cool because you start on the F1 racetrack. So I got to run on the F1 track, which was really, really cool. The last run I did was the Toronto Marathon, which was in May. And that one was really good. That was my 3rd marathon I ever did. And I ran a 2:56 marathon, which is great. I was trying to go for a Boston qualifier. Probably still isn't enough to get into Boston, but there's an infinite number of marathons to run in the future, so I'm not too concerned about that. A.1261 says, what's the best coffee you ever made? What got you into collecting records, and which ones are your top 3 favorites? Was there a side of the road find that you had earlier in your woodworking career which you still think about today? A.1261 has a whole bunch of questions here, so I'm just gonna answer them individually. So what's the best coffee you ever made? I've had a lot of really good coffees in my day. I love like an espresso, because like an espresso is kind of like a coffee under like a magnifying glass. All of the acidity and the sweetness and the bitterness and the good qualities and the bad qualities are all like amplified with an espresso. When it's made really, really well, there's nothing better than a really good espresso. But probably like the best coffee I ever had, if you're a coffee nerd, you know, like a Panamanian geisha varietal is like the best there is.
What the hell are you talking about?
I've had one of those before, which is really great. This is too pretentious. Coffee is like so subjective. It's all about personal preference. I personally love very fruity, natural Ethiopian coffees. I love like trying to guess tasting notes and then like using my tasting notes that I come up with and see what the coffee roastery says. What got me into collecting records was pretty much like my dad's record collection. He moved to tapes, and then from tapes to CDs. I took his vinyls when I was a teenager, and I've just been obsessed with vinyl ever since. I remember like in high school putting on Dark Side of the Moon, and like my friends and I would just be like laying on my bed, just being like eyes closed, listening to Pink Floyd. I have a couple favorite records. I have a Rolling Stones Sticky Fingers album cover, and it has like an actual like jean zipper on the pants, which is really cool. Another favorite record, I'm like a huge Neil Young fan, so I have like all of Neil Young's records. Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young, Deja Vu has like a leather album cover, which is really cool, with like a Daguerreotype type photo glued onto the front. My third favorite is the one that I'm listening to most recently, which is the new MJ Letterman record. That's top 3 there. Was there a side of the road find that you had earlier in your woodworking career which you still think about today? Even as a kid, I remember on garbage day, like I'd be out roaming the neighborhood for sidewalk finds. I found an amazing black leather beanbag chair that was like teardrop shaped, so it had like a headrest. It was like perfect for like playing video games on in my bedroom. It had like a little bit of a hole in it, so I just slapped some duct tape on it and then dragged it from like 3 doors down, through the front door, up the stairs, into my bedroom, and just to realize that I had dragged it through like multiple piles of dog poo. So there's dog poo everywhere. I did use that chair for like years. It was a great find. Okay, section 2, beginner DIY tips. This is from Karina, Pokino. This is from Karina. What are your must-have beginner tools? Thanks. There's definitely like some tools that I take with me to every single makeover. In my tool bag, I have an impact driver and a drill. So these are actually like 2 different things. The impact driver is for like fastening screws, and the drill is for like making holes. They're both kind of like this. You can like use drill bits on either or, but I like to have like one drill for one thing, one drill for another thing. I just get like much better results that way. Obviously a hammer. I have a screwdriver, but it's a ratcheting screwdriver, and it just makes things so much easier. If you're taking out like little light switch covers, or if you're assembling furniture, a laser level is like a must. I have a rubber mallet because sometimes you need to use a hammer without destroying what you're hitting. I've used it for hammering in floating shelves. Tape measure, a good tape measure is always important. I've got a brad nailer. My brad nailer is key. I use the brad nailer to install baseboards, quarter round, if I'm gluing up stuff and I just need like a little nail to hold something steady. You name it, it's very versatile. Impact driver, regular drill, brad nailer, ratcheting screwdriver, laser line, small miter saw. A lot of people ask me about beginner toolkits and power tools, so I'm gonna be making a video later on about beginner DIY tools. Race and Rodeo asks, what are some small projects that can be done without a proper tool shop, especially for city apartment dwellers? I've been there. I can tell you, it's not easy. If you're living in an apartment building, some projects that you can work on at home, just to give you some examples, like you can paint cabinets, baseboards, you can do little cutting boards, paint IKEA furniture, you can make floating shelves. My tip for you guys is like, get yourself a set of like sawhorses. I have a set that's foldable. They're really, really strong. I can like maybe put a link somewhere for them, but they have extendable legs, they fold away. You can keep it under your bed or in a closet or something, and you just pull them out, put a sheet of plywood over top of it, and you have an instant work table that can fold away in like 30 seconds. You wanna be able to like have a nice big surface to work on, regardless if you're in a shop or in a driveway. I highly suggest working outside as much as you can. If you're living in an apartment building, a great place to do DIY projects is like wherever the garbage area is. If it's inside a condo, like downtown Toronto, you probably want to ask permission to do that. But if it's outside, it's already covered in garbage, so no one's gonna complain if there's like some sawdust or whatever flying around. T-Trip1 asks, what's an easy DIY that you think everyone should have / make to upgrade their space? If you're getting into woodworking, a really great project to start out with is cutting boards. Cutting boards are a great introductory project to familiarize yourself with different power tools, and there's different like degrees of cutting boards. So you can like, you know, do like a live edge one, you could do a glue up version. The number one thing that I think makes the biggest impact in a space is just a fresh coat of paint. That's something that everyone can do. All it just takes is like patience and time. It does not really require all that much skill. And there's like a million videos on YouTube of how to paint properly and different techniques and methods and stuff like that. But a fresh coat of paint on the walls just makes the world of difference. Bindi Baba asks, what are the things worth taking shortcuts on versus things it is worth spending extra time doing? That's a good question. I would say never skip out on proper prep work. With painting a room, for example, 50% of the work is prep, 30% is actual painting, and then 20% is cleanup. Putting the drop sheets down, taping everything off, making sure you removed the lint from the rollers and that you've like patched all the holes in the wall and sanded everything and removed flaky paint or, you know, primed where you needed to. I think that you can't skip out on that. When you do, it becomes a landlord special, and we're all familiar with landlord specials. It's just, it almost looks worse than before. What are the things that are worth taking shortcuts on? I'd say if something is gonna take a lot of time, some more extra money in materials or something, I think it should be okay to settle for something a little bit less than what you're expecting. In the recent room divider video, I was gonna wood veneer the brackets that the slats connect to, and it was gonna take like probably like an extra day and a half to do, an extra couple $100 in veneer, and I just decided to like scrap that whole thing, just be like, you know what? I'll be happy with this the way it is. I'll make it look good.
Maybe we'll skip that step. Maybe we won't veneer the bottom. This is a way we can speed up this process. We can get this done today if we skip this step.
At the end of the day, we're still using plywood, so it's like, you gotta like pick and choose your battles, how long you actually wanna spend on a project. Zilla82 asks, how do I calculate curve cuts? Like how many and how far apart? I need to know to make the love seat of my dreams. There is a technique called kerf bending, and there are kerf bending calculators out there on the internet that you can use. Kerf is like the width of your saw blade. Depending on the piece of wood that you're trying to bend, it takes a certain amount of kerfs cut at a certain depth, at a certain distance apart from one another. And if you're unsure, then you just go into this calculator, just add what the radius is or the diameter and like the width of the material and the kerf of your blade, and it'll just pop it out for you, and it'll tell you like, okay, you have to put a kerf every 3/4 of an inch apart or whatever. So that's how I calculate for those kerf cuts. For something like if I'm cutting it out of material with a saw or something, I generally use a template of some sort. So I'll use like a paint can, or I'll use a string on a nail to like get that nice circumference thingy. There's a ton of techniques out there. I've done kerf bending a couple different times. For Alexandra's bar cabinet, the Billy bookcase hack, I make an arched top to the cabinet and I do kerf bending for that one. So if you want like a step-by-step guide how to do that, I think that's a great video. LJTB asks, your 3 most used woodworking techniques so I know what to learn, practice when I get a garage and tools. The first technique is when you're buying material, you always want to make sure that you're buying straight material. So I always like just look down the board, make sure that it's not like twisted, cupped, make sure there's not too many knots, cracks, or missing material. Another technique I use is I'm always using like pencil. I'm always drawing on the piece of wood before I'm sanding it, and I will sand that off so that I know if I'm sanding too little, too much. Another technique, I use painter's tape a lot for woodworking. So if I'm gluing 2 surfaces together, I'll put painter's tape where the 2 pieces of wood meet, and that will just prevent wood glue from absorbing into the wood grain. Then I just wipe it away and it makes for like a nice clean glue up. I use painter's tape for like when I'm drilling holes. I'm also using painter's tape when I'm using my miter saw. I'll wrap the piece of wood in tape so that it doesn't tear out on the backside. Painter's tape's just like really great to have on hand because I use it for a whole bunch of different things. Okay, so Kim Baxter asks, love that you also started your own channel. Fire sign, hands in the air sign. Question, I always use a different paint for walls, wall paint, and for wooden trim, lacquer paint. But in a lot of AG videos, I see you're using the same type of paint to paint both. Am I being unnecessarily extra, or is it better to use different paint? Okay, excellent question, Kim. While we are using the same brand of paint, you'll see us using like Backdrop, Fair & Ball, Benjamin Moore. All the cans look the same. Generally, we're using a higher sheen paint for doors, trim, window frames, door frames, kitchen cabinets, because the higher the sheen, the more durability the paint has. For Benjamin Moore, we use their advanced line of paint for cabinetry and trim. Backdrop, we use their semi-gloss. We're always using 2 types of paint. We never use the latex wall paint on trim. We never use the semi-gloss trim paint on walls. So we are always using multiple types of paint while the cans do look the exact same. Latex paint is just not durable. You never wanna use like wall paint on trim and trim paint on walls. So you're not extra, you're actually doing the right method. How many levels of sanding do you need to finish? I know that you start low and work up to a higher number, but which ones do you use and how many? Great question. Sanding is like so important. You really don't want to rush sanding at all. It depends on the material that I'm using, but if something's like very rough, I'll start with a 50 grit belt sander. I'll then go to a 60 grit random orbital sander, and then I'll go to 80 grit random orbital sander, 120, and then 220. But certain finishes require less or more sanding. So you always want to look at your can of finish, whether it be stain, oil, combo, lacquer, whatever. If it is important, it will recommend what level of sanding to go up to. So if it's something that I'm gonna be painting, I don't go higher than 120 grit sandpaper. If it's something that I'm finishing with like a nice oil, then I will go up to 220 just because I really want it to be nice and smooth. There's a finish that I work with a lot for like special projects it's actually like a hardwood floor finish, and it says don't sand beyond 120 because it needs something also to grip onto. Stuff doesn't like to stick to smooth surfaces, right? So if you're painting, leave it a little bit rougher. If it's a nicer wood, something fancy, then you want to sand a little bit higher. I generally start 50, 60, 80, 120, 220. Okay, it's demo time. Carrie Marithi asks, please show us how to use a drill. As a complete newbie to tools, what drill bits do what? Okay, this is like a pretty good question because like the drill is the #1 tool that you're gonna use, and it does so many different things. There's different types of drills. If you're like shopping for a drill, generally they come in like a 2-pack. You'll see an impact driver and then a regular drill driver, impact driver, drill driver. The impact drill is generally for screwing in screws, and the drill driver is for making holes. Then I have a third drill, and this is a hammer drill. So it does everything that this drill does, except you can drill through concrete and brick and stone. So this is like kind of like your next level up. So it's like little baby, the middle sibling, and then like the older sibling here. You can use this drill to screw in screws, to make holes. This one is generally just used to screw in screws. You can't really put drill bits on here because it has a locking chuck that is only meant for these bits. So here's where it gets complicated. Now, like as tools are progressing and drill bits are progressing and stuff, you can actually get drill bits with that locking chuck or locking bit on there, so you can actually use this on an impact driver. So it's like, what is the point of having different drills if they all kind of do the same thing now? I would say like the torque you get from this is like so much more than the torque you get from these guys. You can use this to like mix paint. I have the hammer drill version of this one. This is the one that you see me bring onto makeovers all the time with Alexandra. It's very heavy. You'll see me like, I'll be putting it on my head if I have to drill into a ceiling because like it weighs like 10 pounds. But this one, the little baby, it needs a smaller battery. You can just like dangle it on your pocket, you know, walk around. It's just very light and very easy to work with. What I would recommend you guys do, if you are looking to buy a drill, look for like the combo pack because it's probably a better deal anyways than buying them individually. And it'll come with like a battery and a charger, and then you're good for all situations. And then in terms of bits, you have your generic spiral drill bit, and it has a little bit of a brad point on there too. So when you are drilling into something, that little tip just kind of like bites into the material, and you can drill through like wood, plastic, drywall, metal. However, you can't use this to go through concrete. So that's when your masonry drill bits come in handy. And this one kind of has like a little bit of a spade at the tip. It kind of grinds the material rather than like actually like peels it away. You can't use the spiral bits for concrete, and you can't really use the concrete bits for wood. So there are different drill bits. Any beginner drill bit pack, you'll have like different types of drill bits, and that is why. You have to kind of use the drill bits for specific purposes. If you have the drill driver at home, which is like your most common type of drill, there's a bunch of numbers around the chuck here. These drills have a stopping point to them. The higher the number, the higher torque stopping point. If you're like at like a 1 or like a lower number, it has a very gentle stopping point. So I can just grab this and it's not twisting. If you are gonna be driving a screw in with this drill driver, set it to like a lower number, and it will make sure that you don't screw all the way through the material, because it happens all the time. But if you're like drilling a hole and you need a lot of torque, then I'd set it to a higher number. Yeah. But then there's a drill icon, and that doesn't have any stopping point. If you need to drill through some like hardcore material, then that's like the kind of setting you want to be at. And then, yeah, here, different drill, but you have the numbers all the same. This one just has the hammer function. The hammer function, again, is just for drilling through concrete and stuff. So you have your screw setting, drill setting, hammer setting, and this one just has the drill setting. You're gonna come across that like on every single drill. They're all kind of universal, so if you're ever curious, that's what the numbers mean. Next question is from Sheila. 5709. How to use a tape measure, seriously. And this is a really great question because for a seemingly like simple tool, it's actually a little bit complicated. I'll just show you guys some tips and tricks on how to use a tape measure, how to read it, just so you get like the best results. every time if you're cutting, measuring. Pretty much like every tape measure works the same way regardless of the company. This is like a $45 tape measure. This is a $3 tape measure I got at Valley Village. This one was 15 bucks. Has a built-in pencil sharpener, which is really handy. And it also has a little writing pad so you can write your measurements on here. Regardless of the price, they all do the same thing. One really good tip for you guys, when you are measuring something, you always want like a sharp pencil, because if you are measuring something and marking it to cut, you want to make sure that your pencil is as accurate as possible. If it's like a marker, it's like this. It's like, yeah, I want like 8 inches, and you go like this. You're like, that's actually like 1/8 of an inch wide, and there's no way of really knowing what the actual measurement is, right? So sharp pencil. And what I do when I'm measuring is, instead of doing a line like that, I do a V, and at the tip of that V is the actual mark. So it's like you kind of get the most accurate little measurement there. You could do it with the marker, you could do it with a pen or something, but a sharp pencil is the best way to get like the best results every time. Another thing is, like, on every single tape measure, you'll notice that like these things move. See? Move, moves, moves. The cheap Home Depot one even moves. That's because it moves the exact thickness of this metal material. So if you were to pull, right, or you push against a wall, let's say, it's taking into consideration the thickness of the metal. So when you are measuring something from an outside edge, you always want to make sure that the tape measure is nice and tight, because you want to pull that metal clip as tightly to the edge as possible. If you're measuring against an inside edge, you want to press that tape measure into the edge as much as possible. And then to read the tape measure, the biggest ticks on the tape measure are your inches. The second biggest is the 1/2 inch. Third is the 1/4 inches. Fourth is the little 1/8 inches. And then the smallest are the 1/16. So if I'm measuring something and I see that it lines up here, then I know that's gonna be your 1/2 inch, your 3/4, your 1/4. If the measurement falls on one of the small ones, then you know it's gonna be like the 16th. Even though I live in Canada, I do use inches. Of course, for like everywhere else in the world besides the United States and maybe half of Canada, it's all millimeters. Like, honestly, measuring something in millimeters may be easy for some people, but it just does not work with my head. I'm a visual measurer. It's like, okay, I got a 447 millimeters and a half, because it's in between. It's like you're talking decimals and stuff. I'm already checked out. Yeah, so every tape measure works the same way. This one's old and it's metal, printed in Australia, but it's in inches. Look at that. So they all operate the exact same way. So that's how you read. It's how you tick and how you use the tape measure. Okay, I have not seen anyone ask this, but I think it's really important for you guys to know is how to use a stud finder. We did tape measure, drill, and so if you're gonna mark and drill a hole into your wall to put an anchor, you need to have this guy and you need to know how to use it too. So there's like a couple different variations. Like this is a Stanley. This is probably less than $10. This one is like closer to $80. And you can tell how much I use it because it's wrapped in electrical tape. This one has a little electrical detector on it too. If you saw the how to mount floating shelves video, if you saw that video, you'll see how important it is to try to find a stud when you're hanging floating shelves. This is also important if you're gonna be hanging a TV, a heavy mirror, cupboards in your kitchen, cupboards in your, I don't know, anywhere. Anything that's heavy that you're mounting to a wall, you need to go into a stud. And these tools allow you to kind of see behind the wall, find the location of the studs, and so you can properly and safely secure something to your wall. In North America, I don't know about elsewhere, but there's a standard in houses where a stud is 16 inches off center from each other. So if you're trying to find something in your wall and you're unsure if it's a pipe or drain or electrical cable or something, all you gotta do is just grab your tape measure and you'll measure the distance between the studs along the wall. I just set up this like demo wall situation with some studs hidden behind. So this stud finder will show you kind of like the general area. This stud finder works the same principle, but it will actually show you the width of the material behind the wall. A 2x4 is generally not 2 inches, it's 1.5 inches. So 3 lights is 1.5 inches. If I put this on the wall here, you press and hold that it's on. So we have a stud here, it's 3 lights. Now if I were to go over to a stud here, and it's saying there's something here as well, it's freaking out. And then we got our 3rd stud here. While there is something in between these studs, right? If we just use our tape measure, and we measure 16 inches off center, then we know that we are gonna be going into a stud, and we can forego putting a nail or a screw through this mysterious object that's somewhere around here. Oh, would you look at that? It's a metal pipe that I hid underneath. The issue with the stud finder is that it will also pick up pipes and drains and water lines, and it might make you think that it's a stud, whereas it's not. So always just have your tape measure, double check. However much money you want to spend on a stud finder, whether it be 10 bucks or 80 bucks, I highly recommend just having one in your toolkit. Now it's time for rapid fire questions, and I'm gonna try to answer these as fast as possible. The first question is, what do you listen to in your headphones? And I'm generally listening to podcasts when I don't have to like concentrate on what I'm doing too much. 99% Invisible, This American Life, Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend, Armchair Anonymous, Armchair Expert, but specifically the Armchair Anonymous one on Fridays. Music, all over the place. I'll generally listen to music when I have to concentrate on something a little bit more, and then if I really have to concentrate on something, I'll just have the headphones in my ears and not listen to anything. Okay, how many clamps do you own, and what's the most you've used on a single job? I just did a project recently where I used every single clamp I had. I don't know, I think I have maybe like 20 clamps, and I could probably use another 20. Favorite food and what's the best thing you can cook? What do you think about cats? Favorite food is probably buttered chicken. I don't know, it just does something to me, like just makes me happy when I eat it. That and meatloaf with ketchup, yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's like something from like my childhood. I'm just like, it's like comfort food.
On my tongue.
And then what's the best thing I can cook? Pretty good baking cookies. Not in the air fryer, but in the traditional oven. And then what do I think about cats? I think they're great. What is your first ever DIY project? Probably a boat I made out of like 2x4s as a kid. That, or maybe like a finger painting with mud. If you could have one superpower, what would it be? I don't even know. Maybe to fly or something. Are there any builder creators that you follow? For flipping furniture, I follow Transcend Furniture Gallery. For traditional woodworking, John Malecki does like a lot of like epoxy poured live edge table things. There's Bourbon Moth, who does like all sorts of like crazy builds and like educational videos. And then for like just like over the top furniture builds, Blacktail Studio is really great. There's like a ton of creators out there. I don't know if you've heard about this one designer, Alexandra Gator, for example. She's great. Home Renovision is like the best channel on YouTube for general tips and tricks for home maintenance, how to tile a bathroom, how to patch a hole in drywall, how to tile floor, how to re-roof your house, how to do all this sort of stuff. He does it in like such a professional yet relatable way that just makes it so easy to follow. How tall am I? I'm 6'3", and I don't know what that is in centimeters. How do you drink your coffee? I assume black, but I thought I'd ask. If I'm at a diner for breakfast, it's always with like milk and sugar, but I drink black coffee like 99% of the time. And what kind of music do you listen to? Anything but Screamo, I guess? I don't know. Okay, that's it for the rapid fire questions. And that's it for the Q&A. Thank you so much for joining me on this Q&A video and little demonstration video. Hope you guys learned something. If you have more questions, leave them down below in the comments or reach out to me on Instagram. Maybe we'll do like a follow-up Q&A video in the near future or something like that. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.